At exactly 3:14 a.m., Detective Elijah Rowe was jolted awake by a phone call. After more than 2 decades in the Chicago Police Department, Elijah had learned one thing: calls at that hour never bring good news. But this call was different. It wasn't from dispatch. It wasn't from a partner. It was a stranger. A voice, calm and slow, simply said, "You've got 24 hours. Start at Willow and 37th. Basement level. She's waiting." That was it. No explanation. No name. Nothing. Elijah barely had time to throw on his coat before the wind was pushing against him on the empty freeway, his mind racing. He had a bad feeling. By the time he reached the warehouse, the sun still hadn't risen. The old building loomed over the street like a carcass. Inside, the air was heavy, musty, and damp. And there she was, a young woman lying in the center of the floor beneath a flickering overhead bulb. Pale, lifeless, with a piece of paper pinned to her coat. It read, "She wasn't the first." The woman had no ID, no wallet, and no phone. Her pockets were empty, except for a single black and white photo crumpled in her jacket. The image was of a man beaten and handcuffed. Elijah recognized the scene immediately. It was from a raid he'd worked over a decade ago. A raid that was supposed to have been buried. The autopsy came back clean, no drugs, no signs of abuse. She'd been strangled quickly, silently, by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Elijah's gut told him this wasn't just a message, it was a warning. 2 days later, a second body turned up. A man, this time in a back alley, same age range, same condition, and the same chilling message: he won't be the last. The media hadn't caught on yet. But Elijah knew it was already too late. Someone was picking off people connected to his past, one by one, and leaving him breadcrumb trails on purpose. As the cases began piling up, Elijah saw a disturbing pattern. Every victim was connected to a single operation from years earlier, the Huron Street raid. An event that should have ended his career had the truth come out. He and his partner at the time, Marcus Vale, had entered an apartment on faulty intelligence. It was supposed to be a gang drug house. But instead they found a woman, unarmed, innocent. Marcus fired a shot in the chaos. She fell. Elijah made the call to cover it up, to protect his partner. Reports were edited. Evidence went missing. And just like that, the truth disappeared. A year later, Marcus was presumed dead. His car found submerged in the river after a chase. The body was never recovered. And now, someone had brought him back from the grave. It started subtly. A photo left on Elijah's windshield, his own daughter, Lila, playing in the backyard, taken from a distance. Then came a USB drive in his mailbox. It contained security footage of Elijah himself, standing at each crime scene, placed carefully like a chess piece. Someone was watching, manipulating, controlling the narrative. He turned to one man who might know something, Julian Cross, a former detective turned whistleblower, who had once exposed a deep rot inside the department. Together they dug into the records, deeper than Elijah had ever dared. That's when they uncovered a name long thought forgotten: Grace Whitmore, a journalist who vanished while investigating CPD corruption. And she had a connection to the first victim, Cassandra Bell. She was her niece. Julian revealed something that chilled Elijah to the bone. Someone had been working behind the scenes for years, building a digital footprint, hacking into case files, surveillance systems, and city databases. They called him the Architect, an anonymous force exposing everything Elijah had once buried. But the real puppet master? Marcus Vale. Alive. Watching. Planning. Killing. Vale had faked his death and spent the last decade turning himself into a ghost. Every victim had been part of the Huron cover-up. Each one fell like a domino. And Elijah, in his silence, had been complicit in all of it. The only difference? He'd lived with the guilt. Marcus had turned it into a crusade. The final blow came when Elijah's daughter, Lila, went missing. Her phone was found in Grant Park, propped on a bench. The screen displayed a single message: "Now you understand." Elijah lost control. With Julian's help, he traced everything to a cabin in the woods, a place that once belonged to Marcus Vale's parents. Inside, Elijah found Lila, alive but terrified. And Marcus, Older, thinner, but still carrying that same fiery look in his eyes. Marcus didn't raise a weapon. He didn't run. He simply said, "I didn't kill them, Elijah. I exposed them. I brought justice. You buried the truth. I just uncovered it." Elijah stood frozen. Years of pain, of silence, of shame. In that moment, it wasn't cop versus killer. It was brother versus brother. But before Elijah could act, Lila stepped forward. In her hands, his backup pistol. One squeeze of the trigger and Marcus' veil dropped. No blood-curdling scream. No final monologue. Just silence. The media branded it a victory. A fallen officer avenged. A rogue ex-detective stopped. The city sighed in relief. But Elijah knew the truth was far from over. Months passed. He resigned from the force. Lila started college. Julian disappeared back into his world of encrypted servers and burner phones. Life on the surface returned to normal. Until one morning, Elijah stepped out to find an envelope on his doorstep. No address. No stamp. Inside, one photograph. His own face staring at a camera he never saw. A note was scribbled on the back. "Not all ghosts are dead.